All right, true crimers. Geez, you can see my office there. Coming live quick here out of grave concern for Sebastian Rogers. I want to read something to you. Now, this is from the Uvalde Foundation. I know a lot of people have said a lot of negative things about the Uvalde Foundation. It's just shocking to me how, whether it's somebody with a platform that is just giving an opinion or somebody that's helping search, no matter what their skill set is, uh, that others put them down. I mean, people are sacrificing their time and effort to help find a little boy, Sebastian Rogers. And just for me, I'm not one to put people down. I don't need to put people down to aggrandize myself. And people who tend to follow that line of thinking, in other words, we're going to bash everybody because then that makes us look good, is just something to consider for all of you all as you decide who you put credence in what they have to say and who you don't put credence in what they have to say. But regarding this Uvalde organization, from looking into them, I have absolutely no reason to believe they are anything but a legitimate organization. I don't care if their website is great or not. I care that they put boots on the ground and people on the ground and that they cared about searching for Sebastian Rogers. I think we all wish we um, could have been involved, walking the grounds, looking, doing everything in our power. But when we can't, and others can because they have the ability to volunteer and there's part of these organizations, my hat goes off to them. But I want to get down to way more important matters than that. Sorry, I broke my glasses. Um, anyway, uh, I have always, in the Sebastian Rogers case, been very careful not to cast aspersions at the family until something came forward from law enforcement, something that gave us a hint of foul play, a hint from law enforcement that there was something awry. We have plenty of hints. I put a whole list forward of the issues. My number one issue: why in the world did the Proudfoots leave their home? The home where Sebastian Rogers would likely return to if indeed he had run away. Other concerns: why all of these statements that contradict each other? I really try to look at the statements and ask myself, how relevant are they really? How relevant are they to him being missing and what could have been done? As an example, when Chris Proudfoot said he had taken the polygraph, right? But he hadn't taken the polygraph. But I took that as he was sort of answering for we, and also that he was considering the fact that he agreed to take a polygraph uh, when he misspoke there. So I didn't see that one as a big one. But let's face it, everyone, it's misstatement after misstatement after misstatement. Something else problematic: the only proof of life outside of what Katie Proudfoot has said is that video footage from the restaurant. That's it. None of us, of course, have seen it, and we shouldn't see it. But Seth saw it. Katie Proudfoot saw it. Seth, unfortunately, didn't take notes about it because I'm sure he was just so happy to see, his son alive. But we don't know what clothing was worn. We don't really know much. We just know it was grainy, but at least it was proof of life. Do we have any proof of life after that? third-party proof of life? I don't think we do. We have the word of Katie Proudfoot that her son came home with her, that her son was in bed, that at 10:30 there was a thud, which I find interesting that, initially it was a sound, then it raised to a thud. It was almost like she was trying to explain what happened in that house without really explaining what happened in that house. In other words, was an accident that was covered up. Was there a thud that she possibly caused? What happened in that house? We don't know. But I have greater pause than I've ever had in this case because of a statement from the Uvalde Foundation. I'm going to put my broken glasses on. I know some of you might laugh. All right. The Uvalde Foundation was out searching. The Uvalde Foundation is a group that began after the Uvalde shootings occurred. Remember, those were the shootings in Texas. It was a shooting where multiple students and kids were murdered. It was a horrible active shooter situation that police really stood by and let watch happen. Nobody went in to help as screams were flying out. In fact, police kept parents and people from going in and saving these children, rescuing these children possibly. So many lessons learned on what not to do in an active shooter situation in a school. But I'm digressing. That case gets me hot under the collar because I've seldom seen a case more poorly handled by law enforcement, by them not doing what they pledged to do, and that is put your life on the line in situations like that when you have body armor, when you have guns, when you are supposed to be tactically trained to save a child. But anyway, again, I'm digressing. I want to get back to Sebastian Rogers. This group was formed, and they went a little bit out of their normal comfort zone of really advocacy for children and kids that are murdered as a result of school shootings and their advocacy in that arena. And because, like so many of us, their heartstrings were completely tugged. Their heartstrings for somebody like Sebastian Rogers, who has autism, who we have come to find out has been beaten with a belt, and who was beaten before that by other family members, who was sexually assaulted in the home of the Proudfoots, under their nose, in, I believe, an apartment setting. We're all, I think, enraged by that. And our eyebrows are raised because if somebody is going to not recognize that this could be happening to their autistic son, what are we to really believe about this disappearance? We don't have one hide nor hair of Sebastian Rogers yet. I'd love to think that this is another Connor Jack Oswalt situation. He left at the age of 17. He was found 2.5 years later, homeless, cold, freezing. He was found, he was identified, and returned to his family. I'd like to think that that could be the scenario here. But I am given great pause. Was there a scent? There's 5 dogs involved, and there are indications there was a scent, and a scent that went to the construction site. If you listen to the different police, I've posted them on my Twitter, the different police calls and what they're saying and what they heard. But with the information today about the Uvalde Foundation pulling off and them giving their reason why, which I'm going to read here, I have grave concerns. Let me read it to you. All right. Sorry, I want to start where it makes sense. Summarily and briefly, our foundation is not law enforcement and became involved in this particular case due to its nature involving an amazing young man, Sebastian. And while it's not parallel to our nonprofit's work to prevent school violence as a nonprofit student youth advocacy organization, we could not turn a blind eye to his plight. And if you remember, they weren't making a lot of hoopla about their involvement, just like many other advocacy and search groups out there searching. They're about the mission. They're not about the publicity. So my hat's off to, again, all these searchers. Too many organizations and individuals do just that. We avoid getting involved. It is not our business, or we feel that we are underqualified or too young or too worried what others will think. Sorry, I broke in there and I didn't preface that. In other words, they said, we're going to go out there and we're going to help fight the fight. We're going to go look. And unlike other people or businesses who may not do that because they're too worried about what will other people think? Will they think they're just doing it because of money? Will people say terrible things about our organization? They said basically, or because they don't think we're qualified, so they say bad things about it. We're going to turn a blind. We're not going to turn the blind eye that those organizations have turned. We're getting out there, boots on the ground, and we're going to do everything they can to find Sebastian Rogers. I really love their statement here because they have been ridiculed. They've been put down by others. That just every time I read it, I just try to move on, roll and scroll. But I couldn't on this one. This is just terrible. Anyway, whatever the reasonings, they are unacceptable since Uvalde, Texas, our foundation has been dedicated to protecting youth and serving them. In this case, it didn't matter to us that it wasn't a school violence related. It was a case involving a child missing. And as a nonprofit, we have resources. And they chose to put their resources out. When you're thinking about following somebody or supporting somebody who is putting down another organization, I just ask you to really consider what that means, because that preempts other organizations that might normally go out and put boots on the ground, but now they may not want to because out of concern that they're going to get ridiculed or their foundation is going to be put down, or they're going to get a black eye on their organization. And these are nonprofits. So I ask you just to consider that. We're mothers, we're fathers, and we're family members. That's who was out there searching. Anyway, I'm going to move on beyond their mission statement and basically put forth what they say. As this case progressed from Tennessee to Mississippi and into Alaska, we became increasingly convinced of the culpability of certain family members of Sebastian's family in his disappearance. So let that sink in. This group out there helping search, in the middle of it all, and likely in some coordination with law enforcement, has said they've become increasingly convinced of the culpability of certain members of Sebastian's family in his disappearance. Why are they making a public stance? Just as holding parents accountable when their child enters a school and kills students is appropriate. So, in other words, just like the Crumbly, for those who followed that case, the Michigan case of the young kid who went into his school and murdered 4 people whose family had turned their back on him, begging for help, whose school didn't even notice, or they noticed pictures of him, drawing guns and bleeding and everything on his math papers, didn't do anything. And now we have 4 dead children in Michigan. That's what this group fights for, holding everyone accountable that should be held accountable, including the parents of children who give them their guns, who allow them access to their guns, who don't guard their guns, and then they go in and they murder innocent kids. Man, I'm riled up this morning. This foundation believes in holding them accountable, and they're saying they also believe in holding people that they believe are accountable in Sebastian Rogers' family. Further, they say, holding family members publicly accountable when their child is endangered or harmed in any way due to their potential negligence or worse. They further say, this case has gravitated toward a criminal investigation, which we will not comment on. Coupled with our limited resources, we've elected to cease our search efforts. Okay. Hugely concerned over this. Hugely concerned, not over words, but over words in print to an organization whose credibility is on the line. In addition, I actually had a lot of hope when law enforcement went back out and started search efforts again. I thought, you know what? He did just go out. He did just go outside barefoot. He took a flashlight. He'd had it with his home life. He didn't call on Seth because he wasn't treated that well there either, at least according to court documents. He had no place to turn. So you know what he did? He left. He left. But now, again, on my Twitter, I put out 2 lists. The first list, why it would seem there's culpability on the part of Seth's parents, that they are in some way responsible for his disappearance. And then I sent another list, why they aren't. I challenge you to go back and look at that list. I won't read it here for time's sake. But I list very succinctly concerns. And now, my barometer is certainly going that way. When I think of what they possibly could have done with Seth or to Seth, I'm extremely worried. There was a lot of time in between his last proof of life by outsiders and the time he was reported. One piece of information from Facebook has always sort of deterred me from thinking there was foul play. First of all, the fact that law enforcement has been saying that. But law enforcement has also said no one is off the table. But it's always bothered me that this mother and daughter thought they saw Sebastian and reported it. That wasn't the part that bothered me. I understand that wasn't a apparent legitimate sighting. according to law enforcement, because they came out and clarified that. It was always Katie Proudfoot's response to that I was saying seemed legitimate when she was asking, well, did he have shoes on? Was he, asking questions about that? That would not be the normal response of somebody who's just murdered their child. They just let it go. They wouldn't inquire necessarily. But aside from that, really that one piece giving me pause as to what happened in terms of her culpability. Now, with this statement, I'm very concerned. That combined with everything else we've talked about, the inconsistent statements, the fact we haven't seen hide nor hair of Sebastian, the fact he left barefoot. You know what that always made me think of early on? It made me think something terrible happened to him and he was disposed of and he didn't have shoes on. They remembered to grab the glasses. They forgot to grab his shoes, and they realized that law enforcement would realize that when they went back to the house. And his shoes were accounted for. And so they said that. That was the first thing I thought. But again, I'm quelled because you never want to accuse a family without solid proof. But I'm telling you right now, cautiously, I'm very concerned, as most of you all have been all along, about the involvement of these parents, of the Proudfoots. You don't leave your home when your autistic child has supposedly run away, because where could they go back to? The home. All right, guys, I just had to come on. We all care about this case. I guess for me, my bubble of Connor Jack Oswald hope that he had truly walked away, my bubble was popped a bit today. Let's keep watching this closely. Let's hope that law enforcement will come out. Let's hope we're wrong. I'm just going to stay in prayer for Sebastian Rogers, and I'll keep you all posted on anything and everything I find. Please, if you all, my sleuths out there, my true crimers who are in the mix, always in the weeds on these cases, please post on Twitter, DM me if you all find anything. And certainly if you find anything that's evidentiary, reach out for law enforcement. Go to that tip line. That's the first place you should go. And then, of course, feel free to keep us all in the loop too. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming on last minute. And guys, have a good day.